Hey everyone, it's Aaron from Capvieti Exotics. I'm going to show you a quick care setup video for frog eye geckos. These are the Teratocinctus roboroscis. Now, frog eye geckos are one of my absolute favorite geckos just because they have such big attitudes for little geckos. This right here is one of my females. Sometimes she gives you attitude, you get too close, she does her tail shake. These are actually pretty tamed. I got these as wild-caught juveniles, and I hand-raised them. They have been handled before, but during the last couple of seasons of breeding, I've been leaving them alone, so they're getting a little jumpy. But a lot of times, how I used to pick them up is I just scoop under them very gently. So I don't even grab them. They have very frail skin. It stretches them out. But if you just gently pick them up and lift under them, they don't even know what's happening. So this is how I got these guys used to being handled. They do have very frail skin, almost like a day gecko. If you grab them and grab a hold tight and they struggle, you're going to tear their skin. Of course, it will grow back, but it's just not good for the gecko to constantly be breaking his skin. So these guys are handleable to an extent. And like I said, I haven't really been handling them too much lately. I used to handle them all the time when they were younger. You see she's got a little bit of attitude. That's the male. That's the female. They're pretty much done with the season. I found the last of their eggs several weeks ago and none since. Sometimes they do pick back up in the fall. Of course, once they start laying eggs, I will start doing egg setup videos, how I hatch them, stuff like that, show you some babies. I'm also sold out. These guys are so popular, or getting so popular, that with just a pair, I have pre-orders for a long time. So you can always message me. Chances are there's a waiting list for baby frog eye geckos or the baby roboroscis. But of course, you can always shoot me a message at Capvieti Exotics on Facebook. As far for the actual setup itself, I keep them in a ball python rack. So they're in I believe this is a 32 quart. Don't quote me on that. I've had this rack for a long time. But it's pretty, sizable for just a pair. I did have them in a trio before. I do have another female. With me keeping a trio, I had a trio and a 40-gallon breeder when I first got these guys. That's what the three of them were raised in. The first 2 seasons were very successful in the 40-gallon breeder. I moved them into the ball python rack just to save space. A 40-gallon breeder is a whole lot of room just for a few geckos. The trio did not work out great after the ball python rack. I found my females were fighting. I believe it was over egg space. But one of the females got really beat up, lost her tail. So, of course, she's fine now. She's fully regenerated. She's a little scarred up. I do have a male from these guys from earlier this spring I held back, so I can breed back to the other female hopefully next spring, next season. But just word to the wise, the trio worked for me. It did not work in the long run. Always check these guys. The pair never have a problem with. I never had like a lot of aggression between males and females. I believe the females were just trying to lay eggs on top of each other, and they got in a few fights over it. So just word of the wise, you won't see a lot of info about pairing these guys to breed as far as grouping. But I tried the trio. I thought it worked great. It did for the first 2 seasons, and then the 3rd season, one of the females got beat up pretty bad. As far as substrate goes, I use calcium sand. I've never had a problem with calcium sand, these guys. I do not recommend calcium sand for leopard geckos, bearded dragons. I know there's a lot of things you should not keep on calcium sand. The frog eye geckos, perfectly fine though. These guys are a true desert species, so they like it really dry, and they've always been good about not eating their substrate. I don't even keep these guys humid. I never miss them. They do get a water dish. I'll get into that when I start putting stuff back in the tote to show you how, I really set them up. But yeah, do not miss these guys. Do not raise their humidity. If you keep them humid for a extended period of time, they can develop scale rot, fungal problems. They don't look great if you keep them humid. So they just get a shallow cap of water. And honestly, I've never seen them drink water since I own them, but I just keep a water dish in there out of good practice. It doesn't hurt. With it being on the cool side, it doesn't cause humidity. But yeah, these guys like to be dry and hot. In the rack, the back of the rack stays around 96, 98 degrees. So I keep them much warmer than you would a leopard gecko as well. And I have a lot of success with that. I used to keep them around 86, 88 like I would with the leopard gecko. I couldn't get them to start breeding until I cranked that temperature up to 96, 98. And as soon as I cranked it up, several weeks later, I had the first clutch of eggs ever from these guys. So heat plays a big part in just breeding them as well. Of course, they were doing fine with a lower temperature. They were eating, they were growing, but they would not pick up their breeding or start breeding until I raised that temperature up to around, like I said, 96, 98, I believe. And when I go to set up these guys' drawer, I try to keep most of the calcium sand towards the back. So there's probably about 2 or 3 inches in the back. The front's just really shallow. That's because they lay their eggs right in the sand, right on the hot spot. These guys do not need an egg box with EcoEarth. They will lay eggs straight into the dry sand. And that's also how I incubate them. I do not use any humidity, when I go to incubate their eggs. They go on dry vermiculite, and then they go in the incubator at about 88. As far as decorations go, I got a few hides. And what I usually do is I put them in the back. So where that deep sand is, I usually put 2 back here. Believe it or not, they'll climb under these little black hides. And that's where I spend most of their time, is on the hot side underneath these hides. And that's where I almost always find the eggs. It's very rare I find the eggs towards the front. I usually find the eggs under one of these 2 hides in the back, deep hot sand. Other than that, I add in a little cork tube for them to crawl through. And just a fake plant to help break up sight lines. When it comes to keeping males and females together, you want them to be able to be away from each other. Even if they're same drawer, breaking up the sight lines is going to stop the male from always pursuing her. So she can get away, she can hide, the male can't see her, so they leave each other alone, which is, I feel, really important for any geckos that you decide to pair, is that you always give them room to get away from each other. I also wanted to take a second and show you that 3rd female that I was breeding. Here she is. She's fine and healthy now. She's about to shed, and you can see how her tail's solid white. That's how it's been for 2 years now, so that's all scarred over. Of course, it doesn't give her any problems, but, you know, it's definitely a regen tail, and that's how you can tell with these guys. And that's almost the only scarring she has is on her tail. And I also just want to show you real quick this guy. This is a Pterocinctus cinctus, or a Russian Frye gecko. This is a wild-caught adult I had for 2 years now, and he is the most evil gecko I've ever had. So aggressive. He sees my fingers, he charges the front to try to bite me every time. I cannot stick my hand in here without him charging and trying to bite me. And you can see he's still throwing a fit back there, wishing he could bite me. But thank you for watching this quick care setup video. I will keep people posted. You know, I love showing off my projects and all the geckos I work with. So as I get eggs, I'll show you how I set up the eggs. I'll show you what the babies look like when they hatch, how I set up the babies. If you're looking, if you're trying to breed them now, just to give you a quick idea, I set up baby Frye geckos almost the exact same I would leopard geckos. So I use paper towel as a substrate. They get little hides. Of course, this is a Emerine leopard gecko I'm raising up right now. He came from our Emerine line, which I think is a very beautiful line of Emerine. But same thing, paper towels, give him a little plastic hide, a couple fake plants, doobie roach dish, and just a bottle cap full of water. Like I said, I set up a baby Frye gecko like this. I keep the baby Frye geckos around 88, just because they do well at that temperature. But once again, the adults, if you're trying to get them to breed, you want to crank up the temperature on the hot side. And if you're wondering where I got these plastic hides, in an earlier video I showed you how to set up New Caledonian geckos in a plastic tote. So I cut out the center of this tote to put in nylon screening, and then I take that, cut into strips, fold it up, and it makes perfect baby gecko hides. Thank you for watching this video on frog eye geckos. If you want to see more, like, subscribe, tell a friend, hit the bell icon. You know, we continue to put out more content with the more support we get. Of course, we always appreciate any support we get. But once again, thank you.